you mentioned three elements that
Yeah,
will help us with the BS. Would you share with us these three elements?
sure. I talk and that's because again, I wanted people to actually take away things. So I came up with three. The first one was start at the heart. The second was check your focus and your feed, because your focus becomes your feed. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. And the third one was change your words and you'll change your world, or just pay attention to your words, because those start to shape the world that you're living in, your world.
Fantastic. So let's go one by one on them. And I'll
Sure.
ask you with a little bit twist. Share with me, how was it in your life that you changed your belief and you use that, an example how you use that to become the great success that you are in your organization? And I want to tell you that people talk behind your back very good things about you. So it was amazing when I went to train Swiss Hotel and Fairmont. A lot of people say nice things about you, and I didn't know. I said, "Oh, I must meet that gentleman."
Thank you, Avi. That's very kind. And I hope long may that continue. But a big belief system and a foundational belief for myself. When I say start at the heart, is I call those the foundational beliefs. And you mentioned, I want to thank you for all the kind things you've said, but you talked about training different leaders throughout my life. Now, I started in the learning and development field really young. In fact, I was a 24, 25-year-old training manager in Dubai for an incredible organization there. And what gives a 25-year-old kid, the wisdom and the confidence to stand in front of people and speak about leadership, right? So often, a lot of people's credibility comes into account, but I believe that a foundational belief of mine kept me going, and not just kept me going. I would think that I kept checking on this and building it. And today I'm at a stage where, and I use this very deliberately by God's grace, I'm at a stage where I constantly build that area every single day. And I realize that if I don't feed the heart level, or feed, the heart and soul level, and we'll talk about that as well, because I know you're an incredible trainer too, and you're an incredible speaker, and you speak a lot about body, soul, spirit. So we'll get into that. But I believe if you don't feed that foundational system every day, then it's going to change the way you make decisions in the day. It's going to change the way you speak. It's going to change every time you get up and communicate. So those foundational beliefs, start at the heart, can be everything. I've experienced many different things in my life, or many different moments. In fact, I experience them every day. I wanted this topic to go to the people that are living life. And this is an important one to remember. I don't want it, the talk was not designed to just meet the needs of one particular segment or one particular innovator. It was meant to go out to the common man who I have love and respect for the mom that's slogging away to send their kids to school, for the dad that's working 2 jobs, for the CEO that doesn't get to see their children because they're trying to make a success for their family and for their lives. So I believe the message is literally for anybody at any level of their life, because the whole idea is, and again, it's not giving you the principles of success. It's saying, go back and check what you believe at the heart level. See, for me, a heart level is my faith, and I'll share one with you. It's the faith. It's the faith saying that I have a good God looking after me, putting me in the right rooms, giving me the word to say. And a lot of people will roll their eyes at that, and I get that. Even in this interview, you get a few people that might go, not sure what to think now. But that's the belief that stayed true and that brought me success, no matter what, at the age of 24
give you some
till today.
confidence. It give you some confidence level that you
It absolutely did.
and extend it. What about the cynics that say, "Hey, Michael, you were very lucky. You met good people. You got the
Yeah.
chance. But I have a toxic boss, and I have all this toxicity around me, and I really want to show with the heart, and I have good beliefs, but it doesn't work. What do I do then?"
I love that, Avi. For me, again, go back to the foundational beliefs. I always say, when I say start with the heart, when we deal with a toxic boss, a lot of the times it goes back sometimes, don't forget, I don't advise you to go and try and change other people, right? That's not what you're here to do. That's not what we put on the planet for. But we are here to live a life, and that was chosen for us. That was given us. You talk a lot about the race. I spoke about the race in this TED talk. I said, it's so funny that people actually. I got to tell you about this. I had an Instagram live event after the TED talk with some young leaders, and this young leader said to me, when you talked about everybody's born a champion, I rolled my eyes too. And he said, that's because I'm ultra competitive and I want to win at everything. And I said, well, so I laughed, I just laughed really hard. I said, think about everybody who's ultra competitive and wants to win. Hey, as a people, a lot of us go through that ultra competitiveness and wanting to win. But where do you suppose that came from? That was put in you to go do great things with. See, what I want to remind people is you're not here on this planet living this life by chance. You were a winner. You were born a winner. You are a champion with a set of unique gifts and abilities only for you to make a little imprint on this life before you take off.
I think you also recommended to people to find their strength. So that would be something that they could do. I've been subject also to a few toxic bosses. And I think that what driven me was to learn from them what never to do. I remember
Love that.
I wanted to become an officer, and my commanding officer, Major Biran, said that I'm going to be an officer on his dead body. So once I got my first bar, I looked at him and I say, actually, it shows that there is life after death. And what
I love that.
what I took the toxicity as something that I need to learn how to manage. And if I learn how to manage that, actually the same boss is now one of my friends on Facebook after he retired. And that
That's
was
awesome.
the mission in me. I had to change myself to get to the process that sometimes you really have to leave the toxic boss, but don't stop believing in your heart. And you mentioned
I love that.
something important. You mentioned a new term. You said follow.
I did. Yeah, I did. So do you want me to say some stuff about that? So the world's familiar with FOMO, right? And you said something very interesting earlier that I want to kind of speak to at the moment. I think everybody knows what's wrong with them. In fact, we do it every morning. We wake up in the morning, we go to the mirror, we want to brush our teeth perhaps, but we stare into a mirror and we go, oh, wish I'd maybe been a bit skinny. And that's not obviously for the people who are waking up this morning listening to this and saying, oh no, I love it, it's perfection. When I look in the mirror, that's not for you, right? But what I'm trying to say here is people essentially know what's wrong with them. It doesn't take a rocket scientist for them to get up and say, oh, and again, that might allude to some BS or belief systems that they've built from when they were a child, or people speaking things over them, people making them, speaking a certain way about them. They bought into that. They allowed themselves to believe that about themselves. So you could, you speak to, there's an incredible TEDx from a supermodel, a world-class supermodel, doing incredible things on the runway. And what she said sat with me for a while, and I can't believe I'm bringing this up in this interview because it was totally unplanned. And she said, we're often, people who are the most good looking when they look into a mirror will only pick up their flaws. Now there's a reason for that. And it's because we've allowed ourselves to believe some things about yourself. So people that we look at and think, wow, that's a good looking individual, probably suffers from some incredible self-confidence issues because they allowed themselves to believe something about themselves that just wasn't true. But you know what? It's now become part of their belief system. So if people like that can feel like that, then I believe that people can wake up in the morning and they know what's wrong with them, which is why I tell people, go find your top strengths. Your top strengths to me are little indicators to remind you just how great a winner you are. In fact, we put about 300 leaders in our company through the strengths test. And I never forget, I sat with this leader and she said, I've done a bunch of these. So, almost approached it cynically. She said, I have never done one like this. This literally told me about everything that was right with me. Every other test told me about what was wrong with me. This is the first time a test has told me only what's right with me.